I've always done things outside of work for the community. I was in the Marine Cadets, and I always had this belief at that time that you get back out what you give in. I think that's something in my DNA. I have a belief in giving back to people. It's something that I enjoyed doing. I always search and look for opportunities to do that.
I certainly came to the conclusion that I wanted to do something that was not about me and not just about my family, something that would help other people. Shelter, water, that seems to be the most critical need. And once we are able to have shelter on the planet, then we can start thinking about doing some of these other nice things. There's nothing, I think, more important that we can do than the things that Disaster Aid does.
I've met people and spoken with people who have all different stories. It affects different people in different ways. Their whole life is turned upside down.
So to be able to build their own house for their family, it gives them pride and satisfaction and dignity for sure.
I have a sense of pain and a sense of desire to help them. And sometimes when you speak to them, they have a desire to bounce back and they have a desire to recover.
And it's not an act of charity, it's helping other people to help themselves. That's the basis of our work. We don't go in and throw our products at people and say, here, be grateful. After a disaster, people are terribly distressed. There's so many things that are going on. Yes, they've had their house blown away, but they've also probably had their living blown away. They've lost family. They're in distress. There are so many things that need to happen immediately after a disaster.
Although it can be painful to see so many people affected so badly, in actual reality, they just want the opportunity to come back, and they want to prove to you that they can do it, but they just need the raw materials to do it with.
We get to support the individual, then it helps to empower them, to determine their own future, so we're just helping them out. So it gives them the power to help themselves. So we're giving them a hand up rather than a hand out.
They are rebuilding their lives. They are taking ownership. They're not taking a handout.
When these trucks roll into a village full of aid, everybody is there to receive it. Every single person comes out. When you leave it with them, they can be quite tearful and it can be quite emotional. And that makes me emotional. That sense of dignity that's returned to them is just enormous for them. They just feel as if we've given them something that they never thought they would get back. And they can't help but say thank you. But I know that thank you isn't really for me, because that thank you is really meant for those Rotarians and those people who provided that aid and set up the structures for that.
Honestly, the donors are the true humanitarians, because without them, we achieve nothing.
I feel like it's a privilege that I can help other people.
We've been here before, fighting the problems that fight back. But we can shift the status quo, because we see opportunities where others see obstacles. We're change makers and problem solvers, uniting over 1 million minds to address complex issues facing communities around the world, including yours. With passion and purpose, we've led the efforts to put an end to polio. Now eradication isn't just possible, it's plausible. Every day we're investing in a new generation of leaders so we can continue to provide access to clean water, tackle global health concerns, support education, and build the foundations of peace across borders. We're working together as partners and professionals while making friendships that last a lifetime. We're Rotary, and there's no limit to what we can do.
Welcome to yet another Rotary Live panel discussion. Rotary International is an international service organization whose stated purpose is to bring together business and professional leaders in order to provide humanitarian service and to advance goodwill and peace around the world. It is a non-political and non-religious organization open to all. There are over 35,000 member clubs worldwide and a membership of 1.2 million individuals, known as Rotarians. Our global network means Rotary members collaborate from thousands of miles apart. Distance is no barrier when it comes to changing lives. Rotary is where neighbors, friends, and problem solvers share ideas, join leaders, and take action to create lasting change. Two powerful earthquakes hit Mexico in 2017, destroying buildings and highways and killing hundreds of people. The three big hurricanes of 2017, Harvey, Irma, and Maria, have caused billions of dollars in damage. Following a disaster, many vulnerable people are without access to some of the most basic human rights: food, shelter, sanitation facilities, education, and healthcare. Rotary mobilizes rapidly in the wake of human and natural disasters to provide emergency support, as well as implementing longer-term projects to bring economic and community development. With more than 1.2 million members worldwide, Rotarians are on the ground and ready to take action to help communities recover when disasters strike. Rotary members and the Rotary Foundation play a unique role in disaster recovery and building efforts, working closely with our partners such as Shelterbox, Aquabox, Disaster Aid International, and other organizations that specialize in disaster relief. Rotary members lead projects to support every phase of a community's recovery. This evening, we are proud to have panelists in our discussion, Rotarians from Australia, Malaysia, and Singapore, who dedicated their lives to disaster response. Let me first introduce Rotarian David Langworthy from Australia. David Langworthy has been a Rotarian for 28 years and is a multiple Paul Harris Fellow. He is a past president and a member of Rotary Club of Greater Dandenong and Endeavour Hills, District 9820. David was the founder and past chairman of Shelterbox Australia and the founder and past chairman of Disaster Aid Australia, as well as the founder and past chairman of Disaster Aid International. He is currently a director of Disaster Network of Assistance Rotary Action Group. Professionally, David is chair of Vivmarks Group, a Victorian-based company with interests in retailing, wholesaling, importing, logistics, and accounting. He is a member of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. David, would you like to say hello to our audience?
It's a real pleasure to be here tonight with you all. So thank you for the opportunity to address this, be part of the panel.
Thank you, David. Let me now introduce Rotarian KK Louis from Malaysia. Past President Louis Kok Keong began his Rotary membership with Rotary Club Utara Subang Jaya in the year 2000 and is now a member of Rotary Club Banda Utama after a membership transfer in the Rotary year 2018-2019. KK, as he is fondly known in Rotary, was elected in Rotary year 2020-2021 to serve a 2-year term as a director in the Rotary International's Disaster Network Assistance Rotary Action Group. He is also co-chair of the Strategic Planning Committee in the Disaster Network of Assistance Rotary Action Group. He is the current vice chair of the Disaster Aid Malaysia, and he undertakes the field deployments and training for Disaster Aid Malaysia, a joint project of the Rotary Club of Johor Centenia, District 3310, and Rotary Club of Bandar Utama, District 3300. He is also the chair for Disaster Aid International for Rotary year 2019-2020 to 2020-2021. Disaster Aid International is a project of Rotary clubs in USA, Canada, UK and Ireland, Czech Republic, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, India, Brazil, and Uruguay. Since 2019, Disaster Aid International is a Rotary International collaborating organization. KK is an electrical engineer and graduated from Oxford Brookes University in 1982. Professionally, he manages his own electrical engineering consulting, contracting, and supply business aimed at powering remote communities around Asia with hybrid renewable energy solutions. KK, would you like to say hello to our audience?
Hi, all my fellow Rotarian and friends. It's good to be here tonight. I hope that my sharing will energize some of you here to join our either Disaster International or join our Disaster Network Assistance Rotary Action Group by the end of this forum. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, KK. So let me now introduce Rotarian Christopher Beck from Singapore. Past President Chris Beck joined the Rotary Club of Makati West in the Philippines in 1995 and was its club director. Upon his return back to Singapore, he joined the Rotary E-Club of 3310 in 2008 and helped charter Rotary E-Club Singapore in 2011 and was its club president twice. The club was renamed Rotary Club of Novena, and Chris was its club president for Rotary year 2017-2018. Captain Chris, as he is fondly known to Rotarians, worked with the District Rotary Community Corp in Rotary year 2013-2014 and was the chair of District Disaster Relief Committee for 3 terms from 2014. Chris went to the Philippines in 1981 as a contracted logistic agent for the US Navy, and in 1990 became the CEO of New Telecommunication Technology Corporation. In 1995, Chris became an officer of the Philippine Coast Guard's Auxiliary and was promoted to the rank of captain, which is equivalent to a colonel, when he left the Philippines back to Singapore to work for Hope Ambulance and later for Toa Payoh Nursing Home. Chris started in 2008 the A-Team Medic, a med evac company providing medical evacuation service in the region with 2 ambulances, a landing craft, and a speedboat. Airplanes are chartered whenever necessary. Simultaneously, he also started a medic network ambulance with 7 land ambulances. Chris, would you like to say hello to our audience?
Hello, guys. We are very glad to see all of you here and hope to give you a review of disaster relief. Okay? All right.
Thank you, Chris. Following the immediate aftermath of disasters, Rotary members support a number of emergency response charities, most of which actually started out their lives as Rotary Club projects and have grown to provide essential assistance throughout the world. In most cases, these charities will work with local Rotarians wherever the disaster may be in the world. Let me direct my first question to David. David, I know you have a very long journey in disaster response with Rotary since 2003. Tell us, what is it like?
To start, it's a long story. The truth is, what I'd like to speak to today is the lessons I've learnt over the past 17, 18 years really they're only my learnings, what I've learnt, observations, and a personal view. And the truth is, Rotary clubs and Rotary districts have always been involved in disaster response, generally when it has affected their area or district. And it was not really until the Rotary Club of Helston Lizard in Cornwall launched their shelter box project was there really a global Rotary response to disasters. And that's where my journey in this space began. It was in 2003 at the International Convention in Brisbane, and I stumbled across Shelter Box. A Rotary Club from the USA, the Rotary Club of Lakewood Ranch, was in Brisbane promoting Shelter Box mainly to the Rotary clubs of the USA. And I was struck by its simplicity. A box of items delivered to a family that had lost everything as a result of a natural or man-made disaster. 90% of the funds raised because of the Rotary project went into the box and only 10% for admin. It was in my view at that time a brilliant idea. And I looked at it from a business point of view. If I was going to promote it, it would be very easy to sell it to Rotary clubs. It was the ideal low-cost international project for every Rotary club. For $1,000, a Rotary club sponsored a shelter box, and they had completed an international project. It was a winner. And as a result of that, we launched Shelter Box Australia. It was a Rotary Club project. We set up as a standalone public company, limited by guarantee, with suitably qualified Rotarians as directors. We had a simple one-page agreement with Shelter Box UK. They delivered the boxes, sponsored by Australian Rotary clubs. We retained 10% for admin. They retained 10% for admin, and 80% of the funds raised went into the contents of the box and delivery anywhere in the world. It was a brilliant project at the right time. And in the first 6 years, we raised more than $10,000, mainly from Rotary clubs. In 2009, we struck a snag. Shelter Box had broken away from the Rotary Club of Helston Lizard and set themselves up as a standalone organisation charity. And we inadvertently discovered some serious financial discrepancies. And really, the rest is history. The issues were not able to be resolved quickly, which led to the launch of Disaster Aid Australia and subsequently Disaster Aid International and the other 10 disaster aid organisations. Disaster Aid adopted the shelter box model, only made a small operational change. In as much as the goods that were entered into the box came from China, we rented a warehouse within a logistics company in China and packed and dispatched the boxes from Shanghai. And this is where the real learning began. We'd always received reports back from our shelter box response team members of issues they experienced in the field when delivering aid. And when questioned, Shelter Box always tended to gloss over the issues. And the Board of Disaster Aid Australia resolved that we had to be very accountable and transparent. We were spending Rotary Club's money, which led to us to do what we call very thorough follow-ups post-deployment, to meet with those who had received the aid, the local governments who had been involved in the distribution, and with the NGOs we work with, and the Rotary clubs we work with. These reviews were really a real eye-opener. And in one of the reviews, I actually spent 4 weeks travelling in the Philippines post the Bohol earthquake and a typhoon, meeting with local government, the local NGOs, Rotary clubs, but more importantly, with the people that received our aid. Now, the aid we delivered was really appreciated. And I really think that the fact that people outside the Philippines cared about them was more important than the actual aid that we delivered. And those of you who are familiar with Filipino culture, and I spent 12 months working in the Philippines many years ago, that quite often a yes can mean a no. So when I was sitting down with these people that received the aid and sort of had questions and asked them about the items we supplied, the tents, the cooking utensils, the answers I received after lots of talk and patience were very revealing. The tents were too hot. The cooking utensils, the pots and pans, they sold. The multi-fuel cooker, the comment was, we couldn't even sell them. The tools we supplied, they really were excellent and appreciated, which led to, we asked one question. What do you really need then? What help do you need? And the answer was help to rebuild our homes. And this led to what is now called Smart Aid. To rebuild a home post a disaster in the Philippines, and remember these are not the homes that we live in, these are the homes in the barangays of the Philippines, the average cost was surprisingly around $250 US. So following on from those meetings in the Philippines, after the next typhoon, over a period of 2 months, we rebuilt more than 1,000 homes. And if you can show the images there, Clarence, all the materials were sourced locally. Those affected did all the work. It created employment. It stimulated the economy. People were happy. They had something to do, and they helped each other. It was a true win-win situation. And the valuable lesson learned here was we cannot respond to a disaster effectively until we know what those affected need. We must ask the questions. What do you need? And then respond. Now, as an organisation, Rotary is uniquely placed to respond and assist following disasters. As an organisation, we have more than 35,000 branches, Rotary clubs, more than 1.2 million volunteers. We have people on the ground around the world. This network can be more effective than any other NGO. In the terms of people and the Rotary Network, alongside other NGOs like the Red Cross, Red Crescent, we are a giant. We are bigger than any other NGO. The real challenge we face is how do we coordinate effectively the Rotary response so that it's really, really effective, and to catch the headlines so that the response to disasters is seen as a Rotary response. Thank you.
David, for that sharing. Let me direct this next question to KK. KK, you too have a long journey in disaster response with Rotary. What brought you into disaster response? We seems to have some problem with the connection. KK, your microphone.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Okay, sorry. Interestingly enough, as I was saying, I was actually volunteered for disaster relief work during the Bangkok Rotary Convention back in 2012. Our past president, KG Tan of the Rotary Club Banda Utama, he met David at the convention because disaster in Australia had a stand. And then when he came back from the exhibition, he thought that it would be a good idea to start disaster aid. So he actually approached our sister club, Johor Centennial, Nelson, and they discussed this and they said, okay, let's start disaster aid Malaysia. So then we arranged a pre-dark training, okay, for some of the local members to participate in. And basically that's how I got invited into this program. So as you know, we heard the term DART, right? DART basically stands for Disaster Aid Response Team member. So they basically wanted somebody to fill out the training room. So that's how I got roped into this. Now, when we started Disaster Aid Malaysia, because it was a joint project we started it initially as a joint project. Subsequently, we felt that we should register it as a society and make it official. So that's what we eventually did. The program committee started, and then we registered it as a society. Now we have members from Penang, we have members from Perak, we have members from Selangor, we even have members from East Malaysia, Johor, as well as at the moment a single solitary member from Singapore. Now, having responded directly during the Kelantan floods in 2014 and also done several community water filtration projects in the Philippines, Myanmar, Thailand, Lombok, Kerala, and Malaysia, I have to admit that it has been a pleasant journey with no complaints. My participation in Disaster in Malaysia and Disaster International has also been very rewarding, actually. I participated in relief work, bringing safe water to communities, and made friends with many Rotarians around the world because of it. So, example would be like David here, that's how we met. Now, since then, I've served on the board of Disaster in Malaysia. Of course, I'm serving as Disaster International Chair until June next year. And right now, I'm also serving, I just started serving a 2-year appointment as a director on the Rotary Disaster Network Assistance Rotary Action Group. Now, both DAM and the DNA RAG, as we call it, will actually give Rotarians who have been keen to volunteer for disaster relief an opportunity to participate in areas outside of their district and in concert with like-minded Rotarians from other countries. So both David and I are hoping to make the DNA RAG more international by promoting and recruiting more Rotarians from the Asia-Pacific clubs. Thanks, Queen.
Okay, thank you, KK, for sharing your journey. Now, let me direct my question to Chris. Chris, when did your journey in disaster response begin?
Okay, I actually started disaster relief 2014 when I was approached by Andre to take the post, because I took over from Ho Long Sing. He was actually the only one to do it. But once I take over, I create a committee. I create a committee so all can participate. We have a region from Sabah, from East Malaysia, West Malaysia, and Singapore, and Brunei. So all these people they participate, helping each other by giving the disaster relief a chance. We have done so far. We gone to Aceh when there was an earthquake in 2016, and then we went to Nepal. Nepal also 2015. I think 2015. We go there. We see all the disaster, and then we help the rest to raise fund. We also help them people to succeed their life. Actually, in 2018 I got a stroke. But still I serve, because 2018 I got a stroke, and then I still feel good to help the rest. And then is your will is your will. That's why I speak like that, because I cannot speak properly right now. But the thing is there's a will that you must try to serve others, and then you can get others to help all the people in disaster who is interested, and then we help them. So far I think the Kelantan also we did. I went to Batu what? Batu Besar. No, in Kelantan. We went there, and then it was flooded. Maybe you can show the slides, please, Clarence. You can see some of the sites when got flood all the flood people were standing on the roof, and then we have to help them lah to go down and then see what we can do. And then most of them are very sick because once you get flood you got pneumonia. So we also help them. As a medic, I help them to take the temperature, what can all the goods. We give them medicine. So in a way, you have to help others by doing that lah. Okay, that's all.
Rotary
Yes.
supports 3 phases of relief. Immediate response. Our local clubs and partners immediately offer helping hands and supplies. Then short-term assistance. Our clubs and districts help affected communities wherever we can through funds and materials to re-establish day-to-day operations. And then long-term rebuilding. Our clubs plan and implement projects that rebuild affected communities. Now, KK, would you like to share with us some exciting disaster relief projects that you have personally involved in?
Yes, sure. I prepared some slides, Clarence. Maybe we go to the first slide. Okay, the first slide actually shows one of my favorite projects. This project is actually retrofitting of failed water filters at 9 border police schools located in Songkhla province in South Island. We are using the sky hydrant to replace the old filters. This project is a joint project between the Rotary Club of Klang and also Rotary Club of Nyai Nakarin. And so far, we've completed 3. These schools are actually located in remote areas close to the Thai-Malaysian border. Now, the second slide shows the Bhutan 2020 project. It's actually an ambitious undertaking by Disaster Aid Australia with the Rotary Club of Thimphu, benefiting about 150 government schools all over Bhutan. So far, they've already installed more than half. In the next slide, you will see Disaster Aid Brazil coming to the aid of their indigenous groups in the Amazon forest in Brazil, providing non-food aid as well as water filters. Now, the next slide, the Beirut explosion remains top of mind for some of us. And here we see our Disaster Aid Europe providing soil water filters as well as luminate lights to Rotarians and road tractors in Lebanon, assisting their distressed communities. Interestingly enough, when David was talking earlier about understanding the needs, in fact, after we did the assessment, one of the needs that they actually needed was doors, because the apartment, a lot of the doors were actually blown off by the explosion. So without the doors, actually, they felt very, people were invading their privacy. So that was one of the kind of unique items that we had to look for. Okay, and of course, aid is continuing to Beirut, and our sister organization like Disaster Aid Canada, they are still actively raising funds. Now, in the next slide, this one I show briefly the Kelantan floods. This was back in 2014. And you can see, basically, we supplied a couple of essentials. One was the safe water sky hydrants, and the other one was basically shelter or tents that were basically supplied as well, because some of them, they lost the homes, they were quite badly damaged. Now, you can see also actually the newspaper. That was actually from the Nanyang, Singapore. Nanyang actually had a group of young volunteers, and they teamed up with us, and we went over to the Temia Orang Asli community in Kuala Betis in Gomusang, and we helped them to install the tents for them. And besides that, we also provided a couple of sky hydrants, and then also the Malaysian Red Crescent Society installed 2 of their sky hydrants as well as part of the disaster relief. Now, the next slide. Then of course, also earthquakes actually struck in Lombok and Palu, as you know. So together with Rotarians in Lombok, you see the picture on the left, we assisted in deploying a couple of sky hydrants, and these were actually sponsored by the Rotary Club of Singapore. Then in Palu, Disaster Aid Malaysia actually dispatched 1 unit of the sky hydrant, and I think it was 30 tents through NADMA, which is our National Disaster Management Agency, and they were airlifted to Palu courtesy of the TODM. The next one, please. And as we are all fully aware, the Philippines on an annual basis suffers immensely from typhoon disasters, and this year is no different. Already, I think at least 2 major typhoons have slammed into the Philippines. So Disaster Aid Australia's partner, Balai Mindanao, have been installing multiple sky hydrants all over the affected areas to provide much needed safe water for drinking and cooking. Now, sky hydrants are actually excellent for sustainability, simply because they avoid the inherent problems with bottled water, okay, which is basically an avalanche of plastic waste. Now, finally, the last slide is basically with the COVID-19 pandemic. I also see disaster aid partners providing PPE to frontliners and community food relief. The latest involving Disaster Aid Malaysia and Disaster Aid Australia participating in the Sabah relief efforts. Now, DAA also donated a pediatric breathing assistance apparatus to a hospital in Dhaka, and this was done jointly with the Rotary Club of Dhaka Royal and in Bangladesh. So that's a quick highlight of some of our projects in the last few years.
Now, what about Chris? Chris, do you have one exciting project that we'd like to share with us?
The one that I had the best is the one I go to Indonesia, Aceh. In the Bandar Aceh, we serve the people sick and injured. And then I go to one village. They have about 100 over people. The 100 over people, we have to take the all the vital signs, and then we diagnose them, and then we help them to get better. But during the time 100 over people, we do from morning 8 o'clock to evening 8 o'clock. So there is non-stop, and I want to go toilet also cannot, because so many people waiting for us. So there is actually something is memorable to me lah. And then because we have limited resources and people to help, we only have 10 people to help all the 120 people in the is a clinic lah. We help them in the kampong, and then we do what we can. So that is actually something exciting to me lah. Then if you talk about flood, I went to what was it? Tenggara is it? Tenggara, and then they flood all over, and then we have to go through the flood, and then we stay in the flood area, and then help the people to come down. and that is something worthwhile because you know why? Because when they come down, they got no food, no no dry clothes, and then we give them all. We brought about one container of clothes from Singapore, and then that is how we can help them lah. In a way, we do what we can. We are not a wealthy donors, but we do what we can. So in a way, you can do by giving clothes and then food stuff to them lah. That's all.
Rotary districts have been affected by natural disasters can use Rotary disaster response grants to launch their own projects or work with established relief organizations to help their communities recover. Grant funds can be used to provide basic items such as water, food, medicine, and clothing. Rotary districts work closely with local officials and groups to ensure that the funding will meet a specific community needs. Now, David, would you like to share with us how do you raise funds in your district and how do you work with the various Rotary response grants?
Fundraising for disaster response today is really dependent on what your Rotary Club, Rotary District and Rotarians can raise through their networks. It's not very effective and it is reactionary. When you look at the other NGOs, Save the Children, Red Cross, Red Crescent, Oxfam, all have very large and significant fundraising departments. And they actually receive significant government funding globally. When there is a disaster anywhere in the world, their fundraising departments are first to initiate fundraising campaigns. And we're competing with them for funds. I remember at the time of the Nepal earthquake, Save the Children had initiated a fundraising campaign in less than 8 hours after the earthquake struck. We knew very little about what had happened, but they were raising funds. So all NGOs are very proactive and see disasters as fundraising opportunities. And they have to. They've got high overheads, they've got to pay wages, and they're very proactive. Rotary clubs, Rotary districts, Rotary International, we don't have fundraising departments. We rely on our Rotary contacts, and we are reactive. In the short term, I think this is something we must live with. But in the fullness of time, this must change. This is a personal view. And it is an issue the RI board are aware of and yet to find a solution. The issue RI has as an organisation is our foundation and the focus of our foundation, and fundraising for disasters can be perceived as competition. So today as Rotary clubs we have to raise funds in the time-proven methods that vary from club to club. But district grants are available for disasters, as are global grants. All require a bit of work, patience, and you need to use the Rotary network. You need to have all the contacts in the district, and for global grants, you need the contacts with other Rotary clubs in other parts of the world. Something for everybody to think about.
Thank you, David. Now, KK, how do you raise funds in your district in Malaysia, and how do you work with the various Rotary response grants?
Sorry, did you?
Yes.
I lost you there for a second.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So for us here, Disaster Malaysia, for example, we do not actively also appeal for funds unless there is actually a disaster relief plan or a project in the pipeline, like David was saying. Now, Disaster International, because we are part of the DAI, sometimes our sister organizations in the other part of the world, they actually do fundraising and they make an appeal. And some of those funds actually they will provide to us, and then we use those to fund the disaster relief projects. Well, of course, the recent example was when Disaster Australia donated money to us for the Sabah relief project, for example. Now, since 2019, Disaster International has now been recognized as an RI collaborating organization. Now, this paves the way for future cooperation with more Rotary districts as well as clubs. And as fellow Rotarians, DAI organizations act as custodians of public funds, much like the Rotary clubs. So our own local yayasan, or the Foundation of Rotary Clubs in Malaysia, they can offer matching grants with Rotary clubs in Malaysia where disaster relief is concerned. However, the only caveat is that the project has to be within Malaysia. Now, besides that, of course, global grants from Rotary Foundation is another form of funding, but a lot of these global grants for emergency funding as well as for rebuilding, you have to go through the process of applying for them. That can sometimes be really challenging and kind of off-putting for some of the clubs that are less experienced. So we on our part as Disaster in Malaysia, we're always on hand to provide consulting services or disaster preparedness training, as well as conducting site assessments for shelter as well as water filtration projects. So clubs in this district are free to contact us anytime you like.
Oh, thank you very much, KK, for sharing. Now, Chris, what about in District 3310? How do you work with the various Rotary grants?
Okay, in the District 3310, we go around to ask the clubs to donate and most of the time they will donate. We receive about 200 over thousand ringgit to do the Malaysian Malaysian flood, and then the rest we get from friends We also do crowdfunding If we can, we do crowdfunding, and then we help the rest to get the fund But important thing right now, because people still don't understand what is disaster relief. So they say, are you sure how you going to give all the relief? The thing is, once we get the money, we will channel the money to the other club where the let's say in Kelantan we send the 3300 the money to help them to do the project. In other words, even in Philippines, when we need the project to be sustained in the Philippines, we also help to raise fund. But doesn't mean these fund can be used all the way. So we have to make sure that we have to be accounting, do proper accounting for them, and then that's how we do I think in future, I hope the RI can give fund allocated fund to all the disaster, because we sometimes got disaster strike, we have last moment to raise fund. It's quite difficult.
Thank you, Chris. Rotary has come a long way in disaster response. Moving forward, how can Rotary do even better in providing this humanitarian service, which is in the stated purpose of Rotary? David, I would like to hear from you. What would you like to happen moving forward?
It's interesting. I'm currently a director of the DNA RAG, and I was nominated for the position in my absence by then RI President Barry Rassin, who had previously asked me to get involved in the RAG and to help develop a 5-year strategic plan for the RAG. The Rotary Action Group was an initiative of past RI Director John Eberhard in 2010, and until recently was very much a US-centric organisation, raising funds, working in the US with US directors. So Barry had asked past RI Director Bob Stewart to chair the RAG and to make it a more global organisation, which is not really an easy task. However, I'm happy to say that we're well on our way. The board is now much more international, having directors from the UK, Taiwan, Brazil, Malaysia, and myself from Australia. And we still want to make it more international. And the plan at this stage is to relaunch the RAG, the DNA RAG, at the International Convention in Taipei in June. We'll have a significant presence in the House of Friendship, and we're running 2 breakout sessions, one in English and one in Mandarin, which will be a first. And the speakers will be representatives from all the organisations, Rotary organisations and Rotary supported organisations that are involved in disaster response, like Shelterbox, the Rotary Foundation, Disaster Aid International, and others, with the ultimate view that we can get these organisations to join the RAG, participate in its activities, talk together, plan together, and work together. It's ambitious. The RAG wants to exist to guide all these parties to work together. They can retain their independence, but when they respond to disasters, it be seen as a Rotary response on the world stage. This will garner good publicity for Rotary, good recognition, and ultimately, if you look at it, be seen as suitable recipients for government money. Rotary gets very little government funding, and the government throws a lot of money at aid, but we don't get any of it, and we're probably the most effective organisation in delivering aid. The Rotary network and its connections can make money go further. So the DNA RAG is connecting the dots. The network of Rotarians, Rotary clubs, Rotary districts, the Rotary Foundation, RI, government and non-government organisations. And I encourage all those that are listening to this webinar, attending it, if they're going to Taipei, to the International Convention, please come and see us on our stand, on the DNA RAG stand, and attend our breakout sessions. We've got a lot to do, and I see Rotary becoming very, very effective in this disaster response area.
Thank you very much. And now, KK, what is in your wish list for the future in Rotary disaster response?
Yeah, well, I really only have one item on my wish list actually, and it kind of echoes what David was saying. Actually, I'd like to see more of the coordination of Rotary disaster relief efforts, particularly, and if possible, channel more effectively either through like the DNA RAG or one of our appropriate disaster response organizations. So the funding at least can be consolidated and then more effectively distributed and utilized to maximize our relief and rebuilding efforts. Okay, something like they always say more bang for your buck. Yeah. Now, sometimes also in our earnest efforts to participate in providing relief, especially locally, we are sometimes duplicating as well as and wasting our resources actually. So we could perhaps on a local basis we could perhaps cooperate more with with some of the local relief organizations as well, and then channel our efforts to longer term rebuilding efforts, especially in areas that are neglected, okay, rather than the ones that are easily accessed, for our Facebook and Instagram posts, yeah. So, and also, there are certainly enough Rotarians in our district with expertise to volunteer as cadres and also, Rotarians in action for the DNA RAG or even our disaster aid response team members, projects like Disaster Aid Malaysia or Disaster Aid International. So I would like to, in conclusion, also encourage, our Rotarians that are listening in, especially, come join us in the DNA RAG, join us in Taipei and see what we're doing.
Thank you very much, KK. And now, Chris, what would you like to wish for?
Okay, I see the potential of, you see, when we have a disaster, we need to know what they need. Like David has said it. You give them a box of tools, they don't know what to do. You have to make sure that what they need, like the timber or zinc, we help them. Then we help them to acquire the right thing and right moment. Because the thing if they want to build a house, they have to get wood, they have to get zinc, they have to get nails. But if they don't have nails and zinc, then also very hard to do, right? So we have to ensure that we get the right thing for them. Make sure that we only supply the right thing to them and then help them. And we get expertise from our side, from our Rotarians who can do sewage or what, and we also help them. This is the right way. I think we can help them lah.
Oh, thank you very much, Chris. Let me now thank our panelists, David Langworthy, Vicky Louis, and Christopher Beck for sharing with us their journey in disaster response with Rotary, their contributions in this meaningful humanitarian service, and their thoughts for the future for Rotary to do even better. In Rotary, we transform communities. We take action locally and globally. Each day, our members pour their passion, integrity, and intelligence into completing projects that have a lasting impact. We persevered until we deliver real, lasting solutions. That's all we have. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.